Aloha, friends, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Embodied Healing Self. So, today's guest that I am so excited to share with you is one of my soul sisters. Her name is Patsy McClain. We met a couple years ago on really a pretty deep transformational retreat, which I just got home from another one. And we were staffing that one together, if I remember. And then we continue to do some leadership and development work together through an organization called CORE, which the listeners know that I'm super excited to share one of the co-founders with you, Britta, who I'm supposed to record with today, but she is without power because of the fires in California. So that will be extended another week. But I just love to share how our paths keep crossing. And you may remember, the listeners may remember the episode that I did with Nicholas. And I want to share with the listeners that Patsy has done work with Nicholas. She does soul contract work, which then led into doing human design work, and also has studied gene keys, which is more of a personal reflection type of work. But Patsy is somebody that I collaborate with. She's one of my co-teachers in whom my clients have the experience of the soul mapping package, where we create a soul desire map together, and then based on our core values and what we want to do in life. And then they then have 2 sessions with Patsy, one which is based on their soul contract and one which is their human design, so that they can better understand their expression, what they're here to do, why experiences happen the way that they do in the world, sort of understand their perception of kind of the way things happen in their life. So Patsy and I do work together in this. And one of the things that I really love in this collaboration is that what it allows me to do for my clients is that I do a personal one-on-one, really deep healing retreat, like a full day retreat with my clients. And I use the information from human design and soul contract to create movement, sound healing, and an overall experience by opening up energy centers and clearing energy blocks by using this human design work that Patsy shares with me. So it's just a beautiful experience when 2 people can work together to support other people in stepping into the expression of who they are. So really excited to share Patsy with you today. Thank you so much for being here with me today, Patsy.
Thanks for having me, Jen.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So for the listeners, I just kind of want to give you the framework of what today's going to look like as we share on the podcast. Just like we did a couple of weeks ago when Nicholas was on the show, we are going to give you the framework of what human design is, tell you a little bit about what it is, kind of where it came from, the different types of human designs, different types of strategies. We're going to talk a little bit about open and closed centers and authority types, definitions, anything that comes up to help you understand what human design is. Human design is, from my understanding, it's sort of a blend of modern science and ancient wisdom is kind of how I like to, which just gets me super excited, right? Ancient wisdom with modern science, super cool. That really blends astrology and quantum physics and some other probably strategies in there as well into sort of a language to help people understand more about who they are and how they respond to certain experiences in the world. It's really designed to, in my perception, help us to understand maybe where we're out of alignment and help us to choose to step more into alignment. That's kind of how I, perceive the energy or the choice within human design. That's what it's allowed me to do. So we're going to go through that today. And then after we give you like a snapshot of what human design is, we will share with you in the show notes some resources if you're interested so that you can do your own research to dive deeper into where human design came from, how it was sort of created and manifested into the world, and more information on your own particular type of human design if you want. We will share resources with you. And then we're going to go through mine. We're actually going to go through my chart, and Patsy's going to do a live coaching call with me. And we're going to share how it relates to me and how I show up in my life and how it has been a tool for me in my life and my work and my relationships. And then we're also going to share what it's like to have two people with their unique human designs together and how those relationships can really build upon each other, which is kind of a super cool thing that we're going to share with you. So really excited. And, I just want to share that with all of this, the intention for sharing this with you is really just to provide information for you as a tool or a resource and allow you to just take what resonates with you. So with all of these episodes, all of these wonderful speakers that I'm sharing with you, I intentionally choose them as a way of just sharing information in knowing and trusting that those of you who are listening, there's going to be something that you're going to feel is going to resonate with you, is like, oh, maybe that could be helpful for me. Maybe this could be a tool that will help me understand why this pattern keeps repeating or something like that. So we are just trusting that you are here to be open and listening again and just take whatever resonates with you. So thank you again, Patsy, for being here today.
Thank you.
So I want to just start by inviting you to tell me a little bit about what the intent, what your perception of the intent of human design is, and how it can really help people, how you've noticed that it helps people.
Human design is really a way to learn how really to operate your vehicle. So it's how to operate your vehicle while you're here on Earth. An example would be, for example, the first time I learned about my human design and I was told, oh, you have an open throat, you're not meant to speak. And I'm not meant to speak. What does that mean? And so I found out that during my life, I had experienced a lot of pain in my life because I'm actually meant to wait for the right people to ask me to speak versus just speaking and blurting out and telling stories that nobody really wants to hear. And so I get my feelings hurt. So it's been a whole process of learning that, when I walk into a room, I wait for the right people to ask me my stories, and then I come across with wisdom versus not wanting to be listened to or being annoying. So it's been a way, it's helped to learn how to operate my vehicle so that I basically attract the right people into my life and the right experiences.
As we are having right now in this moment.
Yes.
You are being invited to share your wisdom. And so I love that you just started out like sharing that right away. So what do you see for, and this is really just to engage the listeners who are listening, who are curious, maybe if they've never heard of human design before, but what could you say to them? So it's a way to learn how to operate your vehicle. So meaning our body, our experiences, like.
Yes, our bodies and our experiences. There's two different sides to your human design, and one is your personality, which is conscious, and the other is your body, which is unconscious. And so we go through life knowing our personality. It's what we present to the world. And then the other side of our human design is stuff that people probably notice about us that we're unconscious to. And so it's really about a way of becoming the observer of your personality. And it takes a while to do this. Once you start to learn about your human design, it takes about 7 years to fully step into it. The body regenerates its cells in 7 years, and the human design is the same way. And so I've been studying human design for about 4 years now. And so at about the 3.5 point mark was when I started to become the observer of my life and to be in a situation where I may be having a conversation with someone and I'll observe the response that my personality wants to have, and I'll choose a better one. And so in the past that wasn't available to me, and now it's starting to become part of my consciousness. And so as we learn more about the unconscious aspects of our chart, we actually start to really learn who we really are.
I love that. I really, really love that, because it's, wow, there's so much that I could say about that. Like, it's really the invitation to fully step into the fullest expression of who we are. And like you said, I love the idea that we're observing, like we're just observing. We're not in a space, because I know what I see a lot with like the clients that I work with is like, we always want to fix things and change things. And I have been right there. I mean, my previous experience was an engineer. I'm really good at fixing stuff. And then, there's just a point where we really want to step in and observe and sort of lean into, like you said, those subconscious parts that we're not fully aware of, and bring them into the wholeness of who we are so that we can show up fully. So I love that you said that there really is this conscious and subconscious integration that we're here to really allow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it is. And it's also like a really great way, once you start to learn your own energy and you start to get a feel for other people's energy, and it makes you so much more accepting of them. So if I'm working with a woman and, oh man, she just seems so angry, my mind goes to, well, she might actually be a manifesting generator. And so she's pushing that anger out, but it's not towards you. So don't take it personally. She just has a lot of stuff to get done, and she's pushing everybody out of her way because she needs to get it done. And so in this way, I'm not taking it personally and feeling like she doesn't like me or I've done something wrong. It's like,
right.
She is. Yeah.
Yeah. And in the work that we've done together, what I found to be really helpful, and I'm a manifesting generator, is also looking at the different relationships in my family dynamics and understanding their human design has been really helpful. One of my daughters, I think, is a projector, and
the other's a manifestor.
And the other's a manifestor, which is an even smaller percentage. And it's just that whole, it's like the love language. Once you figure out what your child's love language is, and once you sort of figure out like how they operate, then from a parent's perspective, or in any relationship, it's like, you don't have to be so reactive. It's almost like it's that tool where you can step back and just see it for what it is without being attached to changing something or an outcome. And it just gives you a whole different viewpoint, which I just think is such a wonderful tool. So I want to invite you to share with me the 5 types. Now, I know the 5 types and a little bit about them. What I know, there's the projectors, the manifestors, reflectors, which are the smallest percentage, the generators, which is about, as far as I know, 70%, and then and there's manifesting generators, which is what I am. Can you just tell us a little bit about each type and maybe some of the traits that you might notice or some of the needs in each type of human design?
Sure. The generators are 70% of the population on Earth, but we can break that down to 35% being pure generators and 35% being manifesting generators. Generators are the workforce. In the play of life, we are building the sets. We're making sure everybody has food. We are making all the costumes. We are the workforce. We get things done. And the generator's aura is round and enveloping. And so we take in other people's energies. People can feel our energies. It's just very round and open. A manifestor, let me talk about that for a second. Manifestors are only 8% of the population, and a manifestor has a round, closed off aura. And so a manifesting generator still has the round aura, but they're able to push their energy out where a manifestor would keep it in. And I don't know that any of that makes sense unless I also let you know about the themes. So a generator has a theme, which is satisfaction to frustration. So a generator will know they are in the wrong agreement or situation or work if they're feeling frustrated. So it's important that we enter our agreements in the right way. So a generator would respond to agreements. So a manifester can just make things happen. Their theme, though, would be, when they're not in the right place, would be anger. But they're able to hold their anger in. But a manifesting generator cannot always hold their anger in. And so that's why, like the woman that I worked with, I feel her anger pushing out, and I'll sense it, and I'll walk all around the store to avoid her because I don't want to feel that anger, even though I know it's not personal. I still can feel it. And that's very uncomfortable for me because anger is not part of my nature. Projectors are 21% of the population, and they are here to lead the generators. They have an aura that really sort of comes to a point, and they can really focus one-on-one with someone. This would be, if you're going to have a birthday party for a projector child, I would say, please make sure you invite an even amount of people. A generator child or a manifesting generator or we can play with, we can have an odd amount of girls, but when you have a projector child and you invite 2 little girls over, the projector child will be, she's so able to focus on one person that this one over here is going to feel left out. So it's always better to have an even number because they just tend to really focus. You can probably feel when a projector is looking at you from behind because it's just that it's very penetrating. And the reflectors, they have an aura that is very, it's kind of round, but it's kind of always doing this. It's samples. They are in the play of life. They're the audience. So if your play is a comedy and you look out at all the projectors and no one is laughing, it's not a very good comedy. So if you invite a projector to a party and they're not having a good time, you're probably not throwing a good party because they reflect back to humanity what's going on. They reflect back, and they're really the great empaths of the world. And it's kind of a difficult life for reflectors. Their theme is disappointment, and so they're more ruled by the moon, and so they have this whole process of making decisions that really takes about 28 days, and so that can be kind of difficult for them. So, but they're just completely open beings.
Yeah. So just to relate, as you share that, in my family, my husband is a generator. I'm a manifesting generator. My oldest is a manifester. My youngest is a projector. And so I would say, and I want to ask you a little bit more clarity on the difference between manifestor and manifesting generator, but I would say, like, as it relates to what you just shared, like my projector, my 10-year-old, is a phenomenal surfer right now. She's only been surfing for a year, but really she's so intentional and focused at everything she does. I tell everybody her greatest gift is her ability to be present, that whatever she chooses to be good at, she just takes off. And I mean, she is so focused and so determined. And yes, when you talk about like the friendship thing, that is so her. Like she is so present that she only prefers to have one friend at a time. And she doesn't like birthday parties for that reason, probably, I mean, and her love language is quality time. So as you speak about this, like, I'm able to see, well, of course her love language is quality time, right? Because she's so focused, and her greatest gift is her presence. And then, my husband being the generator, as you said, like, here to give and to work and to serve is the energy that he gives off. And I don't know exactly if this is like manifesting generator to me feels like one of the gifts that I know that I have is I'm a catalyst. So when I collaborate with somebody or people, or even when I'm coaching people and I'm in that space, like it's almost like I open the gateway for the energy to flow through, and I'm able to see it, sense it, feel it. And it's one of the things that I do. People often tell me that I'm just a catalyst, like an energy catalyst. And then of course, my oldest daughter is a manifester, which, I mean, yes, she does make things happen. I want to ask a little bit more clarity on the difference, just for the audience and for both myself, what between the manifester and the manifesting generator.
Okay, so a manifester has a connection to the throat from one of the four motors. And so they can just make things happen. They are ones who can just speak. For example, someone without a defined throat is better off waiting to speak, where a manifester kind of has permission to just speak. It's part of their nature. The manifesting generator, the thing like about you, for example, is you have sacral energy behind your throat. So you have all that life force behind what you speak about, and it goes through your identity center as well. So you have like who you are from your sacral energy going up to your throat.
Which is the podcast.
Which is the podcast. Now here's the difference. So when a generator makes a decision, for example, they have a gut response. And so as a child, most of us probably were responding when we were little with That's our sacral motor. And usually at some point in our childhood, it gets turned off. We're told that that's rude. Say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And so we stop responding from our gut. The manifester, let me see if I can get my words right. So a generator has a gut response. Manifesting generators also have a gut response. But here's the difference, because the generator, when let's say that somebody asks me, hey, Patsy, do you want to go for a walk? And I'm like, well, I'm going to walk to the door and I'm going to go outside and I'm going to go on that walk regardless of anything, because my sacral has committed to it. So someone says, hey, Jen, you want to go on a walk? You'll say, but then you'll walk to the door. And when you get to the door, in between the door, the chair and the door is this gap area. And so in between there, and you get to the door and you kind of sample what's outside, and you realize the walk is not for you. Because, I'm sorry. I'm trying to put that together in my head.
So I hear that there's like a level of discernment, there's like that, making that connection between that gut feeling and then the action almost,
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing. That's my perception of what you're saying. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then so the manifester is, as opposed to the manifesting generator, like what is the difference? Is it really just what I heard you say is like the willingness or where the energy comes from to speak the truth? That's one of the big differences that I heard you say between both. Between
a manifester and a manifesting generator?
Yes.
Okay. So the manifester does not have the gut response. And the generators do have the gut response. So you will listen to your sacral. You'll know if something's right for you. And the manifester does not have that. It probably would be a lot easier if we were looking at a chart to explain these things.
Yeah. So I do want to move in that. Maybe it's easier. Would you be willing to just share before we do that? As we go through the chart, we're going to see things like open and closed centers. And then different authority types or strategies, I think is the word, which are ways that we, I think, respond to events in our life. And you're welcome to start pulling up the chart if you want, if it's easier to speak using the chart. But what do the open and closed centers in general, like, so the human design blends, I think I forgot to say in the beginning, the energy centers, the chakras as well. Mm-hmm. So those are my words for open and closed centers. What can you just kind of give us a little snapshot about what those mean?
Sure. So can you see the chart okay now?
Yes.
I know in the podcast you won't be able to see it, so I'll just say that there are 9 centers. And they do correlate with the chakras. It was in 1787 that human beings went from being 7-centered, which would correlate more with the chakra system, into being 9-centered. Mm-hmm. So we've gone from that strictly survival-based instinct to more of an awareness instinct. And again, coming in 2026, humans are actually going to be, the design will be even changing even more. So the children, as they're coming in 2026, will start to be different human beings like they were in 1787. Yeah, I'm really always so super interested as these kids are coming in and what they represent and how they're different. And you know, there's that one little video going around, the little girl Jenna, and how she's telling her mom and dad how they need to get along. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's just so interesting how she's just like speaking out of her awareness and her emotions. Where before it was really strictly about survival. Yeah.
Well, and it just makes me think that, you know, just thinking as a parent, like how committed I've been to the process of my own emotional awareness, really as a way to be able to communicate with my children, mm-hmm. right? Like, it's like we have a choice as a parent to either stay stuck in our own little bubble or to lean in and open up to their reality so that you can have this open and loving relationship with your children. I've mentioned this book on the podcast before. Did you read the book, The 9 Ways of Creation?
I have not.
So it's cool. It's kind of like a science, again, bringing in the science of like, just the idea that we are in the 9th wave of creation. So as you talk about sort of like evolving humanity on an energetic level, like on a frequency level, like as I hear you saying that is part of, you know, our human design as well as we continue to evolve. So, for those of you that are listening to the podcast, I know that you cannot see the chart, but Patsy has my human design chart up. The information that you needed for this was my birth name, mm-hmm. which is Jennifer Lynn McCarthy, my birth date, which is 9/9/1977, born at 11:22 a.m., which I think is so cool. I have so many double numbers. And I was born in Tucson, Arizona. That was the information that you needed. Mm-hmm. And if you are listening to the podcast, I would invite you to check out the YouTube so that you can actually see what this looks like. But can you tell me a little bit about what you see in this as a manifesting generator and show us the different mm-hmm. open and closed centers and definitions mm-hmm. and strategies that come up?
Yes, I can. And you don't actually need your name for this. You can actually, the birth time, that's where the astrology comes in, is the birth time. So, which the soul contract does absolutely need your name. And birth time, date, and place is all very important because at the time of your birth, the planets are aligned in a specific order. They are sending neutrino, the dust basically, down, and it goes through the earth and through us. And that will affect where these energies are that we see over here in all the different planets. So you are a manifesting generator. So what makes someone a generator is you know what, Jen, let's do this. Let's start with actually what the centers are to make it all make more sense. So the top center with the triangle pointing up, that is the head or the crown. The second one that is green and pointing down, that will be the ajna. Below that is the throat. Below the throat is the identity center. And then to the right is the heart, the will, the ego, all wrapped up into one. And then below that is the emotional solar plexus. On the other side of the chart, from the emotional solar plexus, is the spleen, and then the sacral and the root at the very bottom. When a center is defined, this is energy that is very consistent. It's what you're putting out into the world. You can depend on it. When you have, it also means that a center will only be defined when you have one gate on one center that connects with a gate on another center. So if we're looking at your head, we see that you have the channel of 63-4. You also have the 64 defined, but it's not making the connection. And then your ajna is defined and has a gate hanging here, but it's not connected to your throat. However, you have all these other connections between your sacral, your G, your identity center, and your throat, for example. When the center is open, you have no consistent energy. You're actually taking all of that energy in and amplifying it back out into the world. This is our greatest potential for wisdom, because we get to experience that energy in so many different ways. So do you want me to go right into the defined?
Yeah.
What that means? So Jen, you have a defined head. And so you have a lot of, hold on, I'm looking for something real quick. So you have a lot of inspiration. Someone with a defined head is always receiving inspiration into the world. And some of that inspiration is meant for you, and some of it's meant for the world. So you're just always inspired. Someone with an open head, not necessarily having their own inspiration, is out in the world, but they're taking it in and amplifying the inspiration of others. So we really need the people who have that defined head and their inspiration. And someone like me with an open head could be very inspired when I'm with you. It's also designed to ask questions. So, the head will ask questions about something, and it sends that energy down into the ajna, and the ajna loves to answer the questions. So it's meant for conceptualizing. So it'll receive a question from the ajna, and it will, try to find the answer. A lot of it depends on how you're defined. But someone who is open in the head and open in the ajna, they are kind of have the potential to be really great mind readers. They will try to answer questions that aren't even theirs, because they're picking up from other people and their questions. So someone with an open head and an open ajna can run around trying to answer questions that aren't even theirs to answer. And that would be one of the values of this system too, is to really learn what's yours to question and what's yours not to. Otherwise, we can stay very busy running around trying to figure it out. So you have an open throat, and an open throat is defined yours is defined, and it's meant to speak. What is defined in your chart is what you're meant to speak about. You have, I can just tell you briefly, I took a couple of notes around what your throat is defined to speak about. And so one of the gates is you would share your experience, or you would share how you feel. You have another gate where the voice would be, I have, or I have not. You have a storytelling gate that would say, I remember. You have another one that says, I can make a contribution, and another one that I lead. So you have all your throat has all those different ways of speaking. Your identity center, which is right here, is the center for love and direction. So when you have a defined identity center, you're really here to give love. You probably have a pretty good sense of who you are and probably know where you're going, or at least where you want to go. Someone who is open or undefined would be someone who really, if you were to throw a party, if you have an undefined or open identity center and you were to throw a party, you would have people from all walks of life. And you would just think everybody would get along, but they might not necessarily, because you have the ability to morph into the people that you're with. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when I'm with you, I can be with you. When I'm with my daughters, I can morph into who they are. I can morph into a 3-year-old and communicate on their level. So it really is kind of neat to experience all those energies in different ways when you're open. By the way, open means you have no gates hanging off your center, and undefined means that it's not defined, it's not a consistent energy, but you may have one or more gates hanging off of it.
Got it.
And so this is your will center, your heart, your ego. And so Jen, you have consistent willpower, and when people are with you or working with you, they are going to be very inspired, and they're going to feel like they can do it. When they're out of their aura, they may lose that willpower. They may have willpower in another part of their chart, not just in that center. And when when you're open in that center, you have a difficult time understanding what your values are or what your value is. You may have difficulty charging for services, for example. The spleen center, which is defined in your chart, is about timing and intuition. So you have different ways of they're also about fears. And so some of the fears that would come up could be that fear of being judged, or fear of the past, or fear of responsibility. It's also a feel-good center. So without looking at your kids' charts, let's say, for example, I don't know for sure, but if one did have an undefined spleen, they would just feel so good with you. There could be a scenario where maybe you're in the wrong relationship and maybe this person doesn't treat you well, but man, it feels so good to be with them. It's hard to leave them because it's a feel-good center. Someone with a defined spleen usually has a pretty good immune system. They can really kind of work so hard and work that they may not realize that they're feeling a little sick. So, I mean, they can just, it's such a good immune system. They may not notice when something's coming on. And so someone with an open immune system would be more sensitive to little subtle changes in their bodies, and maybe might do better with holistic ways of healing versus Western medicine.
That's my older daughter. Yeah.
Is she?
So what is the red line connecting the spleen to the willpower? What does that mean when that fully connects, that red line?
So this is a channel. So you have like the gate in the heart, 26, that connects to the 44. So this is a complete channel. And so this is consistent energy that you're putting out into the world. When you have a gate hanging off like that, that means you have that energy of that gate, but it doesn't quite make it to the spleen here, for example.
So what does that show me then? Is this an opportunity to observe and be aware of a place where I might notice that, like, what is the quality of this, the sacral chakra that is, or sacral energy that is not fully, like, is it not fully reaching its potential or whatever in connection to the spleen and the quality of the spleen? Like how could that help me
So how it can
understand?
help you is, for example, this openness right here. So when you have that openness, that white, it's called your not self. It's like who we think we are. So the value would be in knowing what this openness means and observing in yourself that it's okay that you're not this. So you're consistently this energy of the 27, for example, but this gate here, it's probably what attracts you to other people. You're going to feel good when you have this connection with somebody. So when you meet someone that has this gate, you'll make a connection with them. And maybe that's why you're friends.
Yeah. So what is the energy of the 27, for example? Like, is that I know you probably you don't have all of those memorized, but like, what is it like a quality of the sacral energy, the different numbers in that energy center? Is it a quality of it? Is it?
I should have this right here. Actually, it's an unconscious trait for you, and you can tell me if you resonate with it or not. And okay, so this particular gate off the sacral, the 27, is the gate of nourishing. You think nothing of giving with both hands to help and care for others. But this could lead to neglecting yourself. So the foundational need of the gate 27 is to take care of number one first. So with this energy, you would be someone who takes care of a lot of people, and you need to remember to take care of yourself first so that you can continue to give to them.
Yeah, I would say this is one of the biggest practices that I continually lean into, because I have like a really big heart and a really strong will, and I'm a very spirited person, and I'm very capable, and I give a lot, and I do take care of myself. But a person who can give as much as I do needs to do extra nourishing and taking care. I literally, in my dream day, would take the first 2 hours every morning for food, yoga, going to the beach. Like, and I will, at some point in time, my day will be completely set up like that. But yeah, that totally resonates. And my followers know that I always say, I talk about this, like, the self, like, nourishment is a basic form of self-love. I talk about it because I want the listeners to hear this right now, because many times I think people see what I do and they think it's just who I am. No, this is what I am here to work on. Like, I became a health coach so that I would continue to be committed and devoted to doing it myself and helping others. And so, but then again, there's the opportunity, right? The challenge is that I became the health coach so that I would commit to myself. You know what I mean? So you can see where I choose to give to others, and then I choose to come back and continue to give to myself, which at one point in time, I used to go into people's houses and cook for them, and that was too much. I realized, like, that was out of alignment, because I had to come back to nourishing me first before I could do that in other people's home. So that I probably was that I was asked to ask you about that one. So thank you for that, that message, because it's probably one of the most important ones on here.
And there's a little more to that energy that's kind of interesting too, because it's a tribal energy. And so it's the responsibility to transmit the values of the tribe through education and disbursement of resources. So I think basically what that means is that you teach people how to fish.
Yes,
So
I am a teacher.
Yeah.
That is my soul contract, is that I am, and actually more so stepping into that role. I've been coaching for 10 years and really fully aware that I will continue coaching for as long as I'm meant to be there, but I am actually meant to be a teacher of coaches. So that is, I think, part of, like, a lot does come into that head energy, and I can really take in a lot of energy there, and I can really discern very quickly what is important, what is not, and find a way to share with other people. Like, that is one of my gifts, and that might be the manifesting generator quality. So, and it is, and that identity piece that you talk about, like I stand in my identity. That's where that strong will comes from, is, knowing where I stand. So,
yeah. And you're consistently who you are with everyone. So regardless of who you're with, you're the same. Yeah. I love hearing how you can express that in your life experiences too. I wanted to add the red is, for example, the one we just looked at, it's unconscious. And so it's part of your actual design. And it's also the genetic inheritance of your bloodline. So if you really start to study your human design, then it would be an interesting way to look at the theme of this lifetime, what the genetic inheritance you receive from your mother, your father, your grandparents. Where in the black, which is conscious, is more about your personality. It's what you have access to. It's what you know about yourself. It's who you think you are. So, but the red is really, we're really meant, honestly, Jen, to tell you, we have a very important aspect of our human design that's in the identity center, and it's called the magnetic monopole, and it's what pulls life towards us. So one of the important things about human design is to learn not to make decisions with our minds. I mean, it's great for inspiration. You're great for conceptualizing things, but it's really about learning to listen to our bodies to make decisions. And so what that means is that if you were to picture a limousine and the driver in the front seat, that would be the magnetic monopole. It's meant to drive our vehicle, and we, as our personality, are meant to sit in the back seat and observe the scenery as we go by. So it's becoming what we talked about before, observing the personality, learning to observe the personality, learning to allow things to come to us. So if let's talk about the little projector, for example. As a generator, I wait for life to come to me and to respond, but a projector waits for an invitation. And the reason is because what they have to offer is so precious that if they wait for the invitation, they're going to be sharing it with the right people. So
yes. Oh my God, that's so true.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to witness a projector, it's just like, for me, it's like mind blowing. Like, at such a young, a 10-year-old, right? I mean, she just ran her own first surf contest. Like, she does have the ability to also make things happen, but everything is so intentional and very, like, when she says she's going to do something, she's gonna do it. It's like an inner knowing. It's not like a doing. It's like just a way of being. It's like, I don't know. It's really, like you said, focused and powerful energy. It's just very intentional. And there's, it's just really interesting to witness. It's really solid.
And it's interesting too, because the life theme would be bitterness, for example. So if I have a projector in my life and I have invited them to give me some advice, but I withdraw the invitation, and they continue to give me the advice, I can become very bitter towards them. And that energy goes both ways. So you can tell if a projector is feeling bitter that they haven't entered into an agreement in the right way. They haven't waited for the invitation. I was just thinking about the little like having a little manifestor baby. They're the ones that are going to crawl towards the door and try to go outside. And we're going to pick them up and put them back in their crib. And they're going to get down and they're going to crawl and they're going to go, oh, the door is locked. They're stopping me from being a manifestor. I can't manifest. So for a manifestor, the way to find peace, because it is about peace and anger for them, is to, and also I want to say for you as well, because you're a manifesting generator, you really need to think about who your impact field is in your life. And by that, I mean, if your daughter wants to run off and go do something, stop and consider, who will this impact if I don't inform them? It's going to impact my mom and my dad and all my teacher or all these people, because they're going to wonder where I am and I'm off manifesting. So, you know, informing what you're going to do, you'll find so much more peace, because people in a manifestor's life will go, why did you do that? Why didn't you invite me? Why didn't you tell me you were going? And
it's like they're hard to keep up with.
Yeah. But the informing, and if I can, I remember you saying too, one time about her, how even as a child, she would inform you, well, I'm going to go brush my teeth. Well, I'm going to go get ready for bed. And so for you as a mom,
no, she still does that.
She still does
I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'm like, you're 13. I don't need to know.
Yeah. She's informing me though. Yeah.
But it's, I can get the sense that is like grounding for her.
Mm-hmm.
Like so when you told me that, I was like, I shared that with my husband. It's like, and you know, and another ability for hers to manifest is like her ability to manifest, like she's a dancer. And so I see how she, you know, from an outside perspective, within me manifests like the strong emotion, just witnessing her like in that process. Like, I don't know. I think there's something there to that too, but she really is like she's a planner. She loves to plan things, make things happen. No one's going to stop her. She's going to do her thing. And like, but it's almost a little bit like hard to focus sometimes, because she's always on the next, you know, just going forward, making stuff happen, doing her thing. And, you know, and knowing that as a parent, it's like having the compassion and the space for allowing her to do that with some, you know, healthy boundary and guidance, because, you know, she can just take off. But it's just it's good to know as a parent to just sort of understand that that's part of her nature, right? It was such a helpful tool for me when we did this for my whole family. It was really helpful. Like I said, it's like many people are familiar with the 5 love languages. And when you understand like how the person gives and receives love, it helps to nourish the relationship. This was another tool for me that helped me to just sort of, because oftentimes the people in your family are different from you. And so then it's just kind of it's nice to know that, oh, okay, well, yeah, this is kind of where how her energy centers are. And this is why she, you know, is so intentional, or is always, you know, creating something and doing something. It was just really helpful for me. And it's amazing like how accurate it is. It's like, I mean, we can always find some sort of accuracy, I guess, in anything, but really like, this is like, if you know my children as you're talking about it, like when you choose to nourish that innate energy of who they are, it's their gift. So for example, my projector, who I like, it is her gift to be so intentional, so focused, so present. When she does it in a way that brings her joy, like she can be focused in anything, but when I allow her to do it in the thing that she loves, then it lights her up. And, you know, so it's such a great tool. So, yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I can say one of my youngest one, she's 24 now. And I wish I had known when she was little that she's an emotional manifesting generator. So what that means for her is that her emotional solar plexus is defined. And so she has an emotional wave. And so people, if we look here at your emotional solar plexus, it's completely open. You have no gates hanging off of it at all. So for my daughter, who's an emotional manifesting generator, she was my little fit thrower. And as she got older and we talked about why she was throwing fits, and she's like, Mom, there were just so many injustices in the world. It made me so angry. And she didn't have a way to really voice it. And now I wish I had known that. I did know when she was little that she had a fire, and I did not want to put out the fire, but I had to teach her basically some manners. You know, these are some ways you can speak. She has that emotional wave. So when you're defined in the emotional or solar plexus, even though she's an emotional manifesting generator, and she can have a gut response, it's still important for her to wait out her emotional wave. If she makes a commitment when she's on the high wave, and a couple of days later when she's leveled out and she made that commitment, she's still going to keep it. She's still got that energy to do it, but she's probably going to be frustrated, and she might even be angry because she's got both those qualities. So when she's angry, she's going to be able to push that anger out. And even if she's not expressing it, we're going to feel it. And so it's better to actually, even if you're a generator, but you've got that emotional wave, it's better to wait it out. And if somebody asks you if you want to go to the movies on Friday, just say, can we check in with each other on Friday and see how I feel then? And this would be really important too in life. I remember even an adult telling me that on a highway while she was on the beach with her fiance and he asked her to marry her, she said yes, and she went ahead with it. But if she had waited, she probably would have made a very different decision. So pretty important decisions in life to follow that too.
Yeah, and actually my daughter, now that you say that, she is an emotional manifester, which is why the dance is so important for her.
Yes, probably.
So, and I don't have their charts up right now, but I do remember for me as a parent, just remembering, okay, don't respond to her response so quickly because it's just a moment for her, right? It's not the whole picture. So go ahead. You were going to say something.
Well, your emotional solar plexus is completely open. So a couple of things could happen when you're together with her. And if she's having an emotion of anger, because you're so open, you take that anger in and you could become even more angry. So it could be, that happens to me as well. This I will say is probably the biggest part of you that makes you so empathic.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Can I share an experience where we actually met? We were at a workshop we were staffing, and I remember the feeling of being in a closed-in room with a lot of emotions and how difficult that was for you. Because I remember you saying, I know these aren't mine, but you were feeling them so intensely. Do you remember? I'm sure.
Oh yeah. I have to be very intentional with my energy. I'm extremely aware of other energies and emotions. And in fact, I see things, I hear things, I sense. It's all of the qualities of, it also is a gift though. When I'm in session with somebody and coaching somebody, I'm able to have information that can help them in ways that they can't see themselves or they are unaware of. And so, although it's a challenge, it's also a gift. And so, yes, it is. Yeah. I'm extremely empathic, and which helps me with my, intuition as well. And really it helps to see that it's just an open center of, I like to just call it sort of body wisdom. Like I just get it, these hits of information that then transmute into a vision, or I hear something or a need that this person needs that they are unconsciously aware of, that is not consciously known, but I'm able to sort of see, sense, and feel the deeper layers of. It's insane. Like the things that come up, which normally people will come with some sort of physical. Might be like a physical discomfort, and I'm able to, within my experience with them, discern that there's actually an emotional component I sense it in the body, and then I realize like, oh, this was something that happened, you know, this is emotional, like a skin thing is actually related to the gallbladder, which is related to the emotion of resentment, which was the time that you had an abortion. Like that's how quickly that I have no information. And then as we go through the process, like that comes up. So it's so for me, and I know that there are other empaths listening, like this can help you discern and understand that it's part of your human design that you take on energy in this way. And then you might also, once you realize that, it's also an opportunity to, well, number one, not resist it because that's painful, but also to decide to embody it, embrace it in a way that is healthy. So this is where we can choose to, lean into this quality that we have that might feel overwhelming or we don't understand it, and learn to embody it in the wholeness of who we are. I think just having the information in the tool is really empowering. Like it just helps us to be aware of it and then to choose like, well, what are, now that we know we have this quality, how are we going to choose to show up with it? And when I was first going through that process, like when we first met, like in a space that was being held, that was super safe, I become more open. So for me, it was like learning my own process of creating my own sacred, safe space in a way that works for me and holding my own energy. Again, right? That 27, it's like not taking care of other people's needs before mine, but like creating that healthy space within me so that I can then show up in a healthy space of others, so that when I'm taking on their energy, I'm able to discern it and use it as a gift rather than being overpowered by it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And this is one of your greatest sources of wisdom here in your chart. And then your root is undefined. It has one gate. And so the root is all about adrenaline pressure. So when you have an undefined root, you're probably, if you were working in an office, someone with an undefined root, they probably would give you all the work because it would create so much pressure. You would get so much done.
Oh yeah. I function really well, which is not the belief that I want to hold, but it's just true. Like when shit's going down, like I know how to, like if like that's literally how, like that's when I step into my real power. Like I really do really well. Like I joke that I could have been like an emergency room doctor, you know, or I even am certified in firefighting. Like I know how to respond in those situations really well.
Yeah, it's a pressure center. So you feel the pressure. It's almost someone might actually feel like I can't go out and play until I get all my stuff done. I have to get all my stuff done and then I can go out and play. So, or it's just that when you're with somebody with a defined sacral, in this case, you might even feel more pressure to get things done. So you could even get even more done than somebody with a defined root because you're going to be amplifying their energy. So, So,
I'd love for you to share our charts together in ways that it shows how our energy works together. So this is why this is so helpful when you get your family charts done, by the way, which you do offer that, that you can do families together. So now for those of you looking, you see the chart that we just looked at. I have lots of, the one that we just looked at, and then Patsy is on the left. I'm on the right, if you're seeing it the way that I am. And then what is this in the middle? This is us coming together.
These are energies coming together. So the lines you see in blue are your energies, and the lines you see in red are my energies. And then the ones that are colored in together are energies that we share.
Yeah, so it's really interesting because your chart is quite different than mine, which is probably why we enjoy being around each other. You can just by looking, me not knowing anything, just seeing the two root and sacral chakras that are very different than mine. You're closed, I guess, right? Mine's open and yours. So tell me a little bit about what you see in our relationship with each other.
Okay, so when I look at this chart, we actually when you put our charts together, everything is defined. So that means that I come forth with this channel off the emotional or solar plexus that goes to the throat, which you have here, and we create a channel. So
Awesome.
Most likely when we're together, we're going to be able to have some really great conversations because, and I'll probably even be able to initiate some conversations because I'm not a manifester, but when I'm with you, you know, we're both going to have a defined throat. So we'll probably be able to have a very open conversation. The fact that I'm open in the head and the ajna and you're defined, because you're defined in the head and the ajna, you can have a very certain way of looking at things. So when I come over into your aura, I can say, hey, Jen, have you ever thought about looking at it this way? So someone can benefit from being with someone with the openness because they have a way of looking at things in from a lot of different perspectives. But I'm also going to receive a lot of inspiration from you. And when your identity center, probably when I'm with you, I'm going to have a better understanding of who I am because I'm open. My G is completely open. I have not even a gate hanging off of it. So
wow.
So you coming into my aura, you're going to help me have a better understanding of who I am because with an open identity center, it's really just a lifelong search to figure out who you are.
Yeah.
Because whoever you're with is who you are. You just kind of can mutate. So I think together we probably would, I'd better have a better understanding of who I am. I'm going to have more willpower in when I'm with you. So when I'm with you, I'm probably going to feel like I can do anything because we make that connection together as well.
We have a full channel on the other side too, from the throat. It looks like it's like reversed of I guess my right side. That's
from the throat to the spleen.
The spleen, yeah.
Yeah. So this is also the feel good center. So when someone like me is in your aura, it's going to feel really good to me. So
awesome.
Yeah. So when you're in a relationship with somebody, they're just going to love just being with you all the time.
Yeah, I think that's my husband too. I think my husband and I have that relationship. I remember you sharing that with me.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that there was a part in your chart where you could see you actually made a connection to the heart.
Yeah.
It was like soulmates. Like you did, like, I think that you actually did find your soulmate.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that was the weekend that I just came off of, you know, we do our one word, what we see in the person. And like, that was my word for him. Like, I feel so lucky. Like, yeah, I'm sure I have my soulmate. It's awesome. We've been together 20 years and it's like, it doesn't get old. It's just, you know, truth.
Well, see how I'm open in the emotional solar plexus as well.
Yes.
So there are some consistent energies in there. I think for thinking about the workshop that we were there together and how the emotions of being in the room affected you, for me, it was very much, and I'm not quite sure why this happened this way, but it was more, if I touched the person, and our auras were that close together, I could feel exactly what they were feeling. So I think it's more intense for you than it is for me, because I have a couple gates, but for me, it was like being in the room, but also if I touched them, it was very much, I could feel it throughout my body.
Yeah. Whereas I would say it's like hell for me to be in a room full of people having emotional releases is like the worst thing ever. Like all I can think about is running outside and like hugging a tree.
I will say with human design that all this stuff we're talking about is great, but really the most important thing you can do for the first couple of years in knowing your human design is just to know what your authority is and to practice your strategy. So generators, just know that it's your gut. Start trying to turn that motor back on with the ahas and the uh-uhs. Wait for things to show up in your experience and respond to them. Manifestors, make sure you're informing people before you go off and do things. You'll have so much more peace in your life. Projectors, wait for the right people to invite you because you're so precious that you don't want to give it away to just anyone. And then you'll have peace. And then the reflectors, I have a daughter who's a reflector. And the thing about reflectors, and also this is the same for projectors too, is that they don't have, so you don't have that in the moment knowing necessarily. So it's always really good to have a sounding board. So I know that, you know, when my one daughter went to live with my reflector daughter, you know, I just let her know, I'm like, hey, listen, you guys are going to be living together. Sarah's probably going to talk to you quite a bit about some things. And I want you to know you don't have to have an answer. She needs a sounding board. She needs to hear herself say the truth. So it's important for reflectors and projectors to hear
to be heard.
So they might just need to talk to you, and they don't really need you to give them an answer. They just need to hear themselves say it enough until they know what the truth is, and to wait that lunar cycle. And so, you know, if somebody offers you a job and you say, can I give you an answer this time next month? If they're not willing to wait for you, then they're not the right place for you. If someone asks you if you want to get married and they're not willing to wait for 30 days, they're not the right spouse for you, because the reflectors really need to honor that 28-day cycle before making any major decisions. So, yeah, I mean, that's the most important thing in human design is, you know, it was almost like clockwork. At around 3.5, 4 years, I started to observe the personality, and I felt like I was operating more authentically as who I really am meant to operate here, and not out of my openness. So, you know, operating out of it's called the not self. What you're not is very painful, and that's where we experience a lot of pain in life. So,
well, I have a whole interesting thought on that, which is the head, right? It's just, I think it's the perception of viewing that it is separate from us that causes us the pain, because it actually is, as you see in the chart, it is a part of who we are. It's just that we perceive that it's separate from us that causes the pain. It's like the longing for it, the perception that it's separate causes pain, when actually we could choose to perceive that the longing for it is actually the love or the desire within us already as who we are that makes it a part of who we are. But that's a whole nother conversation. I think, you know, what I'm really, the space that I'm really in is just realizing how precious it is to be fully embodied in the wholeness of who we are, including the trauma, the wounds, the beliefs, like, you know, and that was my experience with us together in Virginia, which, by the way, I mean, Patsy, I didn't share this, but you were witness to one of the most powerful healing experiences of my life, which was my subconscious body taking me to, you know, the most physically traumatic event of my life, which was my body shutting down when my daughter was born, and not consciously remembering what was happening, but surrendering to being allowing myself to be taken there on a subconscious level and experience it again, because consciously I couldn't remember anything. You were the one that was there holding the space for me, witnessing me. And it was so divine. I can't even to go into the story of how perfectly that manifested, because we weren't originally partnered together, remember? And then we both have our own experiences. Your mother passing away after your birth, and then you having the same experience with one of your daughters, me having the experience with my daughter. It's very like, this was a divine connection for us. So when I say soul sisters, I mean it in the very deepest level. And so when you show me this chart, and it's like, even if I knew nothing about human design, when I look at the right and I look at the left and I see us together, I see more wholeness of who we are as individuals when we are in the presence of each other, which is super cool to witness those connections that we can have in relationships with other people. So it's super powerful.
And we're all different, and we can have very different auras. And when we come together, we connect in different ways. And it's really just honoring the fact that we are all different, and being able to navigate life and being able to kind of sense maybe what their human design is, and being able to honor them for that. And it's so helpful. It's so helpful for even my emotional manifesting daughter. She will share her feelings if she's in the right mood. And so instead of getting frustrated that she won't talk with me and share her feelings, I know that if I wait, when she's ready, she will, and we'll have a very deep, meaningful conversation about it. And that has worked so much better for our relationship. So
yeah. I love that. And, I just want to share as we wrap this up, I want to invite you to share resources for the listeners. But one of the things that we talked about before we came into this call that you really helped me step into, that is a practice for me, I like to say everything's a practice, is, the idea of the innate energy that I hold, that is a leader. I have this leadership quality, this teacher quality of me. But really stepping into an understanding that it is not my doing that is the leadership quality, but that there is a quality of my leadership where I can, as you said, step into a room and, just simply be my expression of leadership and kind of be called into it in that way, not in the old way of how I've shown up most of my life of just the leading from a place of here, right? And the doing. And so I love that you shared that with me, because it really gave me permission to trust that quality within me. And when I have taken that choice, for example, when we co-facilitated that retreat together last December in California, I showed up in leadership in a very different way than I'd ever done before when it came to facilitating a retreat. And I really kind of stepped back and was really holding space in a way that was totally different. And I felt so grounded in my healthy self. It was awesome. And since then, when I've participated in those retreats or staffed, I'm choosing to stand in that type of energy, sort of the being and the holding rather than the doing. And it's been so healthy for me. And, uncomfortable because the beliefs come up around how am I showing up, but how it feels is really good. So I just kind of lean into the feeling of how grounded and strong that I feel in a new way. So that's one of the things that you've really helped in sharing the human design with me.
Thanks, Jen. I'm glad.
Yeah.
So
can you share with the listeners maybe some resources? Is there a book or a website that you might recommend? And also I want to share that if you're interested in doing this work with Patsy, you can actually reach out to me. I've created a soul mapping package where I prepare you in some of your own we clear some energy blocks. We get clear on core values. We get clear on your intentions to prepare you to step into the space of having your soul contract in human design done for you and also read to you by Patsy. I have a soul mapping offering package where we work together. So you don't have your own website. This is where our human designs come together and where I am bringing to you the right people, because that's something that you do as you receive that. So if you're interested in that, you can go to my website and look at that. But what other resources would you share with the listeners that if they're interested in learning more, they could look for information?
Yeah, there's 3 books that I have. I actually studied with Karen Curry Parker, and she has an Understanding Human Design book. I can show these to you for those who are on if that's okay.
And I'm going to share those books in the show notes. But yeah, just share the name since the listeners can't see it.
So this is a book by Karen Curry Parker. She has other books as well. And I actually studied with her online with a large group of people to learn human design. And I will tell you that even though I've been studying this for about 3 or 4 years, it takes about 10 years. Like, there's so much to this that it takes about 10 years to really integrate everything there is in human design. Another book that I have that I like that really is written more as a conversation, which is kind of fun to read it that way too, is Chetan Parkin. And he has several books out as well. And the one that I think probably goes into the most depth, and if anybody ever studied with or listened to Ra Uru Hu, who is the one who actually downloaded this system in 1987 over an 8-day period, this author, Linda Bonnell, actually wrote this with his permission. And so a lot of the wording in here is very much like Ra would say it. And that can be for someone like me, a little more difficult to understand. So it's great to have a couple of different resources to go back and forth to help everything make sense. But those are the 3 main authors that I like to use. And if you want to just get your free human design chart, I use what we looked at here with our charts, geneticmatrix.com. And you can do your own, find out what your chart is there, what it looks like.
Yeah. So what I just want to share about that is just like your soul contract decoded, you can do your own soul contract with a book. You can get your own, I think they call it body graph even, I'm not sure, but you can get your own human design graph done for you. But what I also want to share is that it feels really good to be in the space of having somebody to go through all of the chart with you and talk with you and have the conversation about how these things show up in your life, where they show up, and what that means. I just want to really say that you can print this out yourself and look at it, and you can, and I say this because I'm one of those people, like, I'm like, I can figure out everything, right? But then it's like, there's so much, like, it's such a gift, and there's so much power in allowing yourself to have somebody share this with you and have the conversations and support you in understanding this. So I just want to say that it was super helpful for me. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your energy and your heart with us today. Really appreciate it. You know, I love you.
Love you too, Jen. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so
grateful.
It
was helpful.
It was super helpful, and we are very, very grateful for your willingness to share. So thank you to the listeners for listening in again. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next week.